Hi, Ernie. I'm pleasure to
Hi
see you
again,
again.
Davey. We're having so much fun doing this.
Yeah.
We should record the parts in between, but it'd only be on the comic strip.
We should. It's really so much fun. But just drifting to a topic that's less fun, the topic of suicide. And how can people kind of find that spark of the bigger self in that urge or longing for suicide?
You know, I have said for years when I was working as a psychotherapist, that if somebody comes into my office and they're suicidal or have suicidal ideation, but not necessarily a plan or a way to do it, that it's a wonderful thing. And what I mean by that is that it's a wonderful thing that you are tired of living this way. You're tired of living this way. You're willing to die. And I can convert that if I'm deft enough. Sometimes I am. Nobody's ever killed themselves on my watch yet. But to introduce that this is the perfect suffering to wake up. I'm tired of living this way. Let's find out what this way is, because clearly that leads to what there's nothing wrong with you for believing that you'd like to end this. And that's a deep yearning to wake up, really. So anyway, that's what I've done with clients with suicidal ideation, which I really think is a critical piece. It's when the suffering is so great, I'm willing to jump off a building or put a gun in my mouth.
Yes, and it's really profound. And it's so important to really differentiate between the longing for death that we both agree on, it's very beautiful, and to not go into action.
Yes, of course. I mean, as a therapist, you need to take, if they have guns in the house, I have them give them away, lock them up with neighbors or whatever.
Yeah. So that's a really good point, to really watch out for your neighbors and friends, to be supportive in the urge that's there, and the inquiry, and to also be really clear that suicide is not a way out, really. Yeah. As far as I know, it actually increases the suffering in the next life. So it's better to deal with it right here, right now. And it's in the dying process, because what's really dying is the self.
Right.
The body isn't really real. It's centered, but the death of the self, it's what's really dying when we leave our bodies. But the beauty of what you and I are offering is we can actually die while staying in our bodies.
No, die now while there's still time.
Yeah. So to understand that there is a difference, and once we actually die to the identity of self and the identity with the body, the identity with this life, that then awakening happens, and then outside situations again can change.
Yeah, I mean, in my life, my form of suicide was drinking, because basically didn't care what happened to me. I mean, I tried to keep my job as long as I could. But it was just a slow form of suicide and denial of my actual circumstance, which was misery. And it was eventually, it was a useful tool to recognize how really unable I was to live life from the place where I believed myself to need to be professional, to be a good man, to be this, to be that, to be responsible. It was killing me. It was killing me, and I wanted to go. So I just go away with drugs and alcohol. It's a different situation than the critical suicidal ideation where somebody has made a plan, in which case you need to, I would do things like make a contract with them. They had to call me first before they did it, and they would agree to that for me to work with them. If they couldn't, I couldn't work with them, and I'd refer them to mental health or something. Some people have addiction problems that are supporting that kind of ideation, and that needs to be dealt with. Sometimes by me, if I was doing that kind of work, or by somebody else, I'd refer them. So there's this practical piece of protecting the body from the harm. But at the same time, it's a kind of a wonderful situation for waking up. You're at the end of your rope. That's when you find out there's got to be some other way,
Yes. Yeah, in my case, I was 2 years old, and I really didn't want to be in the family I was in. And I didn't have the memories until 30 years later, but at 2 years, basically, I didn't want to be there anymore, and I went into the ocean and I drowned.
Wow.
And basically had a near-death experience. Well, in my experience, I just went back home. So, and then I had conversations and I was sent back into the body because I was meant to be here.
Mm.
And
Glad you are.
and meanwhile, they put me out of the ocean and done CPR on me, and kind of that was more painful than anything else I found. I found that more dramatic than the coming back itself. So I don't believe in CPR anymore. But just knowing that when later on throughout my awakening, when I actually felt that longing for death again, with that other memory, I also knew, I mean, I wasn't longing enough to actually physically kill myself, but on the other hand, I also knew even if I would, I'd be sent back. So
the rubber band effect for Devi.
So like either in the same body or a new body. But already knowing like there is no way out. If I'm meant to be here, I'm meant to be here. It's an agreement that I made on a soul level. And so it's just like you just have to stay. And then the only option is really that dying to yourself. Keeping that longing, seeing what is it that really wants to die here.
It's an impossible question, you know. I mean, I because I went to AA finally because of my drinking. I met a guy there who was awake in my judgment anyway, and it was like, oh my God, you've got something. I want to know what that is, you know, which is very good AA, really. A program of attraction, not promotion. So I was attracted to this guy and what he said, and all of his interventions with me, which were kind of Zen koans more than anything, but not really in a Zen way. So I'd go to him and I'd say, I got so much money and I have an ex-wife and 3 kids and they need money and I need money. What do I do? Ralph, his name was Ralph. Great name, Ralph and Ernie, right? And he would say, Ernie, he'd say, I think whatever you do, it's going to be a mistake. How is this helpful, Ralph? He was pointing at the thing in the middle of that was Ernie trying to make the right decisions, and that was my problem. I didn't have this problem and then this problem about my law office. You know, it was all this one problem. Its name was Ernie. And I remember at some point in that process that he would give me these kinds of koans that I was walking around Lake Merced in San Francisco, and the question was, okay, all right, so I get it. I think this is true. What he's saying is true. I think I'm it. Is it possible not to be Ernie? So there's no way to know how to do that, but the question was there. And I think that sort of loosened up enough that something else could be seen, which sort of happened on its own, I think. But that question, holding that question seems it was very important.
Yeah, it sounds like a real blessing of out of what psychology calls ego, which basically is just a mental construction of self, and just you then suddenly seeing that, oh, the problem is that mental construction that has been called Ernie.
Right.
That
I thought it was a person. You know, I thought it was
yeah, and just realizing there's actually nothing here besides what we constructed as who we are.
The mind is very creative. Yeah. And it can be very useful. I mean, the mind is not bad. The mind can do things like track, you know, if you have to cook a 3-minute egg, it's important to time it, right?
Yeah.
The mind is good for that and for getting from here to there in this relative dimension. But when it creates a sense of self, which it seems to do generally in the cultures that we live in now, I think every culture on earth with rare exceptions, that we use the mind to create a constructed sense of the me, which seems obvious because, you know, I'm moving my hands. Who else but me could do, you know, so there's all this evidence. So it constructs this sense, and it's innocent, but it's anchored in fear. So the fact that I might, which is what makes suicide so interesting, I might might be annihilated in an inquiry about what's real. I may not want to do that. That may be the end of me. And indeed, it is. And it's no big deal, turns out.
The end of the constructed self, yeah. Okay, thank you so much, Ernie. It's been really insightful again.
Thank you.